All right, this is an introduction for the newest NoRedInk. So I'm starting here on the slideshow so that you can see where you would learn that you have this assignment. So you can see week 6 and 7 NoRedInk. This is going to be on prepositional phrases, relative clauses, and appositives. It's going to be 6 activities. So this video will be a little bit longer than the last one. But I promise you, I will explain all the things you need to know and do some of the practices. So this one actually has 6 topics about prepositional phrases, and you can see that's what does it modify, and then identifying prepositional phrases. So those two are really building on the same knowledge. And then what does the appositive refer to, and then identifying appositives. What does the participial phrase modify, and identifying relative clauses. Don't be scared. These might be terms that you haven't heard before, like appositive, participial phrase, and relative clauses. But I promise, once you see some examples, you'll know that you have been using English in this way practically your whole life. You just maybe didn't have a name for it. So let's start with probably the easiest. Let's look at prepositional phrases. All right, so here's just some basic knowledge on this. Prepositional phrases are phrases that start with a preposition and end with a noun or pronoun, okay? So we use these all the time. A lot of times it's just like 3 words. They can modify either verbs or they can modify nouns. One thing to remember is that prepositional phrases are only modifying nouns when a sentence has a linking verb, right? So a linking verb is really just the word is, or there's sort of the fake verbs that really act as linking verbs, like seems. You know, you would say, oh, she seems nice. Any of those words like appears, seems, looks, if you could replace it in a sentence with is, then it's a linking verb. All this to say, prepositional phrases modify nouns when there's a linking verb. So Lucy's backpack is on the bed, or the goldfish is at the doctor. Weird. My papers were under my bed this whole time. Okay, so that's what they're doing. They always have that sound to it, on the bed, after a meeting, under his desk. And similar to swabbies, right, the use of subordinating conjunctions at the beginning of a dependent clause, when this prepositional phrase appears after a verb, you do not need a comma. It would be weird to pause. But if you want to get spicy, you want to switch things up, and you put the prepositional phrase at the beginning of the sentence, before the subject and before the verb, then you need to take a comma. That takes a comma. Okay, so that's one thing to remember as you're working through these activities, you know, identifying and selecting prepositions and prepositional phrases. If the preposition is at the beginning of the sentence, that prepositional phrase needs to end in a comma, because the natural place for it to be in English is after the verb. Jumped on the bed. Okay, and then this is a list of some common examples of prepositions: about, across, during, behind, to, within, toward, near, of, before, from, past. You might want to write these down. You might want to think of them off the top of your head. I'm actually going to show you, before we get into the exercises, I want to look at this lesson with you because it gives a better list. All right, and this is something where you might want to pause this video and write down some notes here, because this is a good thing to remember, right? What is a preposition, right? A preposition is a part of speech. It's not like a segment of speech, right? Like a prepositional phrase is, you know, a collection of words. But a preposition is just like a certain kind of word. They exist in English, they exist in Spanish, they exist in every language. But prepositions can pretty much be filed into 2 categories. They're either where or when, right? So this has to do with time, like since the pandemic, comma, I have made many more screencasts than I used to. Right, there you go. Right, you heard that comma. I made a really deliberate pause. Right, or then the where prepositions. When the fire alarm goes off, we all need to go to the park. Right, to the park. Outside the classroom. from the window to the wall. Okay, so those are all different prepositions, and there's, yeah, so that's that. Let's just practice this. Let's get into it. So in this one, right, we always have to read the instructions. Click the verb that's modified by the prepositional phrase in bold. All right, so I just know that that's something that you can do and nothing else. So I really don't even have to read the sentence that much, right? It's the only verb in the sentence, so I know that's it. All right, click the noun or noun phrase that is modified by the prepositional phrase. Taylor Swift's kitten is under the table. Okay, well, I can see this is a linking verb, is, and so I know that it's just got to be that, because that's the prepositional phrase. Pretty simple. Click the noun phrase that's modified by the prepositional phrase. I made Mr. Smithers lunch for tomorrow. So the question is like this, for in this case is like a when, because it's for tomorrow. So am I for tomorrow, or is the lunch for tomorrow? The lunch is for tomorrow. So that's how I know that's the right answer. All right, so it's a little bit of common sense. Click the verb that's modified by the prepositional phrase. Modify, remember, just this is a really important academic verb, a really important academic vocabulary, especially when you're dealing with grammar. So modify basically means to change, like to give more to, right? So under her bed refers to what? Like what action? Did this person do laundry under her bed? No, they vacuumed under her bed. All right, let's try another. So click the verb that's modified by the prepositional phrase in bold. So same thing. All right. All right. Purred and snuggled against her arm. There you go. Because you can't purr against her arm, really. That's a sound. You could snuggle. Cute. Ron Weasley stared at the burning wood in the fire pit. Is Ron Weasley in the fire pit? No, the burning wood is in the fire pit. All right, let's click out to the next one. And let's take a look at appositives. So a positive sounds all, I don't know, scary and academic, but it's pretty normal. And a positive is something that's an identifier or a renaming or a phrase right after it, and you have to put commas around it. So learning just this little bit of grammar will help with your writing. So my dog Snoopy has a long tail. That's it. They're always surrounded by commas when they aren't absolutely necessary, which is most of the time, right? Because you could say my dog has a long tail, but then like adding Snoopy, that's extra information. And anytime there's something extra in a sentence that doesn't absolutely have to be there, then it gets commas on both sides. Okay. So Karen's bike, a shiny red model with training wheels, is brand new. A former World Cup finalist, my soccer coach makes us run a lot. My cousin Jana is funnier than my cousin Lou. All right, so in this case, you didn't need to use commas because it's short and it's because of the parallel construction. Like my cousin this, my cousin that. All right. And then just notice in this case, the extra information is at the beginning of the sentence. And since you can't put a comma like at the very beginning of a sentence, that would just look bizarre. So in that case, then you just use one comma and then keep going with the sentence. You could switch the order entirely and say my soccer coach, comma, a former World Cup finalist, comma, makes us run a lot, but sounds kind of weird. And then this one, you can see the appositive, the extra information describing the subject is in the middle of the sentence, right? It's sandwiched between the subject, the verb, and the predicate. So then it takes 2 commas. All right. And just so you know, it's right before or right after it. You can't just put it anywhere in the sentence. It needs to go before or after. See? This is after, that's before. All right, so now let's give it a try. What does the bold appositive phrase refer to? Millhouse's favorite musician, a guitarist from Seattle, is performing at the cafe right now. So we know that the appositive, which is in bold, always is before or after whatever else is in the sentence. And a guitarist isn't referring to is, so it's got to be Millhouse's favorite musician, and then giving a little bit more information. Let's try another. Allie's pottery teacher, Ali, promised to make me a bathtub out of clay. That's a really weird sentence. But that's who it's referring to. That's the point. All right, and this is the kind where you can see the appositive is at the beginning of the sentence, so there's just one comma, and then it has to be referring to the subject that's right after. See? Not too bad. All right, now let's try another. Let's look at participial phrases. Okay, so participial phrases, I'll say it again, participial. It's weird. They're groups of words that describe or modify nouns and verbs. And not so different from appositives, participial phrases typically fall right before or after whatever it's being modified. All right, so for example, Kyle walked up to his friend sitting on the ground. Jameson picked at the gum stuck to the bottom of his shoe. Craving another popsicle, Carlos waited for the ice cream truck. Right? So you see it's giving more information about like who this friend, like what's going on with this friend, like what's he doing? He's sitting on the ground. Where's the gum? It's stuck to the bottom of his shoe. But it's different from an appositive because an appositive really is usually about a name or something else that's like an identity thing. Like it would need to say Kyle walked up to his friend, comma, the best soccer player in school, right? So it would be just saying about him. It's a little bit different, right? Anyway, let's just give it a try. Sometimes I think it's easier to just see it in practice. Won at the silent auction, Tyler Joseph's new sound system makes the windows in his house shake. All right. It's the sound system that was won at the silent auction. While Angie Thomas was biking home, she saw 3 crossing guards dancing in the street. And again, these participial phrases usually are right after or right before whatever it is that they're describing. So we know it's not Angie Thomas dancing in the street. It's not biking dancing in the street. It's the 3 crossing guards. At the gymnastics competition, the judges were impressed by the tricks added to Monty Burns' routine. And what words is this describing? The tricks. All right, not too bad. Pretty straightforward. We'll look at one more lesson, and then I think that'll do it. Okay, relative clauses. Relative clauses are a type of adjective clause. They describe nouns and answer questions like which one or how many. So basically, relative clauses do the work that a really good adjective can do, but it's just less concise. It's less to the point, right? Like instead of saying Kyle ordered a copy of the video game that everyone is talking about, you could say Kyle ordered a copy of the popular video game, right? Or the notorious video game. I can remember the moment when Lucy adopted her first cat. I mean, you couldn't really accomplish that in an adjective, right? It's a little bit more complicated. Some things in life require more description than just one adjective can give you. And that's where relative clauses come into play. And like it says here, you're looking for a relative pronoun or a relative adverb. those words might be the same. It just depends on context. So where, when, why, that, who, whom, which, whose. Basically the kind of words that are question words, like who, what, when, where, why, right? Plus a little bit of that, a little bit of which. Okay. And notice they take commas when you insert them in the middle of the sentence, right? So in this case, it's subject, verb, and then all of this object, predicate type stuff. But since all of this is happening after the verb and after the object of the sentence, it doesn't need a comma. Same with this one. Kyle ordered a copy of the video game that everyone is talking about. I could say it in a different way. I could say, let's see, how would I do it? Kyle ordered the video game that everyone is talking about. No, I don't know. Putting myself on the spot. There'd be a way that you could switch it around and then make it take a comma, but hey, let's just look at this one, right? Anna's motorcycle, comma, which I borrowed last week, comma, can go 70 miles per hour. So most of the time when you have one of these little relative clauses and it's sandwiched in the middle of the sentence, right? Because this is the subject, Anna's motorcycle, and then the verb is go, like can go, and this is in the middle, then that's why it takes the commas. Okay? So hopefully that'll help you. You're just identifying the relative clauses. So should be good to go. Hope this helps you.